Joe, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay.
It's very faint. There you go.
Hi. Okay. Anna, hi. Bree, where are you? Hi, Bree.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And Jeffrey. So what we have here is 5 part-time faculty from around the country who are coming in on Google Hangout. And I'll introduce them. This is Anna from Texas.
Hi.
Hi. And Bree
Hi.
from Chicago. And from
Yes.
your screen.
It's very faint. There you go.
Yeah, it's very faint.
And Jeffrey, from where are you, Jeffrey?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Bree, where are you? Hi, Bree.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And Jeffrey.
Hi, I'm in New York, and I put on a headphone. I hope it helps.
Okay, hi, Jeffrey. And Joe is from Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Hi.
Okay, I'm not told that it's Bree the quality of
Hi.
from Chicago.
Yes.
Your screen.
Very faint. There you go.
Very faint.
And Jeffrey, from where are you, Jeffrey?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Bree, where are you? Hi, Bree.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And Jeffrey.
Hi, I'm in New York, and I put on a headphone. I hope it helps.
Okay, hi, Jeffrey. And Joe is from
Okay, Anna, we'll have to mute you, and when you're talking, I will turn the microphone on, okay?
Okay. I'm just going to start with a slideshow, PowerPoint. My name is Margaret Hanzimanolis. I'm the ANSA committee in Cupertino. I teach at City College in San Francisco, and I teach at Keynote College in Redwood City. I'm from Vermont. I moved to California about 5 years ago, and my scholarly work is on shipwrecks, Portuguese shipwrecks of the 16th century off the coast of southern Africa. But I got, like Audrey, I got derailed, although I did finish my doctorate. I got involved in the shipwreck of higher education, and that's where I am now. I'm a member of the California Part-Time Faculty Association and has been active in lobbying and policy in California for the last several years. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that we ourselves are as educators, a job has been outsourced to us, and that is not only the skills and knowledge that we are expected to convey to our students, but we also sort and grade and rank our students in preparation for their employment. So this sorting and grading constitutes a kind of what we stay in one place. Which place might that be? Here? Is this okay? I just can't see people. Just one place. Okay. So part-time faculty are doing this sorting and grading. We are 38,000 in the community college system, 760,000 nationally. People know those statistics. And while the labor costs have fallen because of this massive migration of the teaching faculty to part-time or contingent status, the COLA and medical costs have, of course, tripled. So we have the labor costs going down and the living costs going up. But if it weren't for the 85% non-tenure track and 89% increase in part-time labor, the tuition would actually be off the chart. Instead of this trend line, right, where the tuition is this orange line, we would have this. So the factor of the savings to the community college system from using this Army are I calculate $1 trillion in 25 years. This is the donation of this Army of part-time faculty. This is the deserved wages of part-time faculty should they have been paid at the equivalent rate of equal pay for equal work as their full-time colleagues. That's about a 25-year or roughly a working career. So how I arrived at the $1 trillion figure is I took the Fawcett Society's estimate that women earn 16.4% less per hour than men, and that is a lifetime earnings loss of $330,000 per woman, working woman. And if you based upon the difference in wages of part-time and full-time faculty, that's a $1 million loss per lifetime or per working life, and a $1.6 million lifetime loss if you include the value of sabbaticals and health insurance and other factors. Aggregate, that's $500 billion in a 25-year period, or $900 billion in 25 years for the number of academic workers. That is our contribution. We are the philanthropists, just like the low-wage workers. We are the philanthropists of the educational system. Okay, these are numbers that are quite approximate, but they're quite shocking. And that's the savings, of course, to the same corporations that the guy earlier wanted to make sure paid their fair share. So this $1 trillion is money that comes from the working adjuncts and is saved by the corporations who do not need to pay that amount of support for education. Don't forget, we're supplying the grading, the sorting, the knowledge and skill acquisition for these same entities, the business and industry, industrial. So who's responsible? There's a legislative failure. The law has failed to forbid discrimination based on the basis of employment status. If we consider the working conditions of part-time faculty in the United States a form of legalized discrimination on the basis of employment status, that's simply a legal problem. Who else is responsible? In unionized environments, it might be reasonable to presume that collusion has been allowed to develop between full-time faculty-controlled unions and administrations such that the PT part-time faculty are deliberately forsaken by the other stakeholders in direct violation of the spirit and letter of fair representation. I see a typo. Sprit. In some districts and in some systems, it's quite possible that both parties have been for over 20 years bargaining in bad faith. Who else is responsible? The most recent inroads have been made by those who are eager to monetize education, such as powerful foundations, Gates, Lumina, Rand. Rand, in fact, has initiated a study here in California coming out of Santa Barbara, I believe, to find that exact point where an institution can use the maximum number of part-time faculty and at the same time provide the best completion rate. So this is from the RAND Corporation's little study prospectus. It came out about 3 weeks ago. They want to find out low-cost ways to make adjuncts work harder and better for the same pay. And this is their prospectus sentence. We propose a study with two purposes. The first is to calculate the blue line, i.e., to identify the cost-quality trade-off when additional contingent faculty are employed. Second, to find ways to raise CF quality through low-cost, high-return investments. This is the chart which will explain if there is a fall off in quality of education when college is highly reliant on part-time faculty. The California Chancellor's Office provides incredibly data-rich environment for doing kind of basic studies of quality and cost in California. So what I did is I took the 12 or 15 most reliant college systems and looked at their scorecard data and found that all of the colleges that have high reliance, more than the state average, on part-time faculty have dramatic fall-offs in the completion rate and success rate. This is Copper Mountain from minus 19% from the state average down to minus 6% for remedial math. This is Hartnell College, minus 26%. These are all very, very high reliant on part-time faculty districts. What I did not find in this study was the districts that are not so reliant on part-time faculty. City College of San Francisco is one example, did not show the opposite. In other words, when you had a full-time faculty dominant environment, you don't necessarily see completion and success scores above the state average. So a high part-time faculty reliant college would see severe differences in completion rates. Now, I'm not saying that I necessarily trust these metrics, that these metrics are narrow, they're unreliable, they are not what we really, educators really would consider legitimate goals for our life's work, because they leave out many of the qualitative aspects of education. But given the data that we do have, there's a very strong indication that the reliance on part-time faculty in the California community college system is producing some dramatic fall-offs, not because of the quality of the work that part-time faculty do, but because they are not integrated well with the institutions that they serve. So I'm going to turn it over now to Jeffrey. Did I mute mine?
Great. Yeah, I just took the mic off. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. You're able to hear me fine?
Yeah, we got you.
Ah, wonderful. Great. Well, thank you for this opportunity to allow some of us to be able to participate, as well as to be able to present a little bit here from a great distance. I'm coming in from New York right now, and this is just a wonderful experience. And it's such a breath of fresh air to see this kind of discussion taking place. And listening earlier on, I just thought that this was just wonderful with what you're doing out there. at Berkeley City College in having this discussion. I'm coming in okay, yes?
Yes.
Great, thank you. What I'd like to talk about just for a couple minutes, and I do not have any slides. I think that we used enough slides in the classroom often, so I'm going to try to cut down on the slides. I will show one website which I do want to share, so I'm going to hope that I'll be able to share this properly with the screen share. I'm just going to come down. They showed me how to do this before. I'm not sure. And I can't do it, so I'm not going to even try at this point. The one thing I do want to talk a little bit about is my experience with a weekly chat or a weekly discussion, which is called Adjunct Chat. And Adjunct Chat, if it's, you could find it via Google or Twitter or whatnot. And basically, I'm thinking about what I learned in Adjunct Chat, in participating in Adjunct Chat, from a collaboration, disciplinarity, in an equity issue. And I've participated in this chat for about the last year or so. It meets on a Tuesday afternoons. And this is the purpose of this discussion is basically to share and to collaborate with those who teach as adjuncts or part-time, contingent, non-tenure track, or not tenured, or visiting instructors in higher education. While our participants are primarily from the United States, this situation of adjunct or non-full-time, permanent, or tenure track instructors is something which is becoming a much more of a global issue, certainly in the UK and Australia, where we often get participants from as well. And what interested me about this is that as an adjunct instructor, and I work full-time in industry, I've worked full-time in an educational role managing projects in healthcare for many years now. However, I've also taught as an adjunct instructor at New York University as well as Pace University, where I teach both graduate as well as doctoral students, and I've done that in that capacity also for a number of years. And what I found in my time teaching is that often I was hoping for some sort of an opportunity to collaborate, to share ideas, to become part of a community of other people who are engaged in something very similar, something which in an adjunct experience is not always as common. We meet in the evenings often when offices are closed, departments are dispersed, the faculty meetings aren't always extended or aren't always encouraged among adjunct faculty for all sorts of different reasons, and not being full-time or having a permanent home on campus in a singular location leads to a sense of being alone or working completely in an isolated way outside of working with one's students, of course. So with Adjunct Chat, it's an opportunity to gather and to discuss this, often done in a synchronous way, though many people use this tag, Adjunct Chat, asynchronously and also through a Facebook group, which we recently created. Basically, the issue of adjuncts as knowledge workers, and this was echoed by a number of people in the panel discussions, in the earlier discussions today, adjuncts as knowledge workers, the notion of how higher education works and what happens in higher education is changing, and I think that we've all acknowledged that to certain extents. While I've always worked in industry, higher education has always been something that I've done just out of passion, a passion for my discipline. And I think about some of the implications for adjuncts with disciplinarity. If, according to many of the reports we've heard, if up to 70% of university instructors are adjuncts, I wonder what that's going to mean for the disciplines, for theoretical contributions, for research itself, and certainly for student engagement with current theory or current research, regardless of whether one is in a social science or humanities or natural science or wherever one would actually be. But those are some of the sorts of issues, those as along with participating with a wider community and being able to share experiences that I find so engaging in this. And from that perspective, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to engage with this and to participate. And I look forward to really being able to use this as a springboard for us to really continue in some ways to be able to raise some of these issues of whose voices are silenced and why they might be silenced and what they may mean for all of the participants in the higher education environment. And those kinds of stories, wherever they're going to end up, are all very important for us to discuss. So thank you so much for inviting us to have this discussion here.
Thank you, Jeffrey. How about, who's next?
Just do it.
I'm clicking on them, but they don't have to. You have to do it. Anna starts speaking. She muted herself. Joe,
Can you
unmute
hear me?
Joe and begin speaking.
All right, I'm going now. All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks again for everybody for organizing this. I'll wait for the camera.
Oh, Joseph,
Yeah, Joseph, we hear you.
we hear you.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the camera.
Go ahead, because he's going to get the camera up.
Okay.
Small.
Of course, I want to thank everybody for this. I'm coming to you from outside Washington, D.C. I'm also coming from a particular sort of position. As of now, I'm a former adjunct. I just finished my last semester teaching literature and writing after 15 years of adjuncting. At this point now, I'm more in activist and freelancer mode. Just a few things I want to stress to everybody. I think the best advice I could give anyone, whether adjunct activist, an activist full-time professor, a student, is to do what we're doing right now. That is to network, to advocate, connect, blog, tweet, and so on. There's a lot of learning and a lot of collaboration we could all be doing with each other, whether via social media, via the web like this, email, in person, on our various campuses, and so forth. So in that way, then, I really want to echo what Jeffrey and others have been saying today so far about community building. That is, to be a strong network and a strong activist network, that is, we need to be and stay connected via social media. There are some very, very important and very strong activist communities on Twitter and Facebook. It'd be great if you could be part of these and these and other ongoing conversations about higher ed, whether through the weekly adjunct chat or through a number of other means. At least in my case, I wouldn't be here right now doing this if I hadn't been speaking out and connecting on Twitter for the last year or so. So for that, I thank particularly Fabienne for organizing all this and inviting me to do this. One thing that's especially important as well, while we're all connecting with others, is to find allies among particularly engaged tenured or tenure track faculty. Many of them believe that speaking out is something they need to do now, right? Not once they get tenure, not when they get around to it, or over the summer, and so on. Activists like us need allies among faculty, among senior administrators, as well as among students and their parents. And I think that's a demographic we often want to try to reach. We really want to see this activist network in very broad and very diverse terms. In my case, the one thing I've done recently to try to help not only bring people together, but to give adjunct faculty from across the country a chance to share their stories, is I've been editing a column for Inside Higher Ed called Adjuncts Interviewing Adjuncts. And in this, I pair adjunct faculty based on common experiences or complementary interests and so on, it's become a very, very important and rich forum for them to share stories and to encourage others to publish about their experiences. One thing I particularly like about Inside Higher Ed is that we have an audience outside a handful of academics, right? There's a reasonably broad audience for Inside Higher Ed, and so far I've paired. I've had some interesting pairings. One of my former pairings is Bree on our panel today. She was paired with somebody talking about being a mother and a breadwinner as an adjunct. I've paired just most recently 2 adjuncts who wrote novels about an adjunct character. I've paired some mid and late career adjuncts wondering about the elusive possibility of internal promotion. I also paired back in January or so 2 women talking about how labor and gender and sexuality have intersected with their experiences. And this pairing gave me so far what is my favorite line from this whole column series, and that is this: cultural capital doesn't pay the rent. It's one of my favorite ones in the sense of encapsulating how this sort of educated or overeducated precariat is struggling financially and struggling professionally. So with this in mind, I mean, I think we all, as adjuncts and as broader activists, have connections to make and we have stories to tell. By and large, the narrative of adjuncting needs to be controlled by adjuncts themselves. They're all activists, right? So we don't need to be hearing that we should just hang in there, or we should teach because we love it, regardless of what we're being paid, right? And we're not talking about a handful of universities or a handful of departments. We're talking about a very broad and institutionalized problem of contingency and of exploiting labor. One way, I think, to get around that and to not only lead to organized activism, but to organize change is to keep doing this, to connect with each other. So I know this is something we might be able to get more with a Q&A session. I encourage as many adjuncts and other activists and other faculty members as possible to share stories, to share ideas, to share collaboration opportunities, all of which will not only better faculty working conditions, but will more broadly improve student learning conditions. With apologies to the playwright David Mamet, I think a good maxim for adjunct activists is always be connecting, whether it is Twitter or on our campuses or through Google Hangouts such as this and other means. We have a lot of connections to make, we have a lot of stories to tell, and I think we have a lot of change we need to be affecting at the same time. So with that, I'll thank all of you, and I look forward to the Q&A session.
So to explain to those of you Googling in, we can't make the person speaking large. So Bree, that may be a problem because you're going to show a map. So what we'll do is we'll hear Anna, and then maybe the rest of you guys could click off for a minute, and Bree could be on alone so she could show her map. So we'll do Anna next.
Okay, great. Okay, as we all know, there are over 1.5 million higher ed faculty in the U.S. today. Only 25% of them are tenured. Over 50% average $2,700 per semester course, many with no health insurance, and another 25% have no tenure or are hired on limited contracts. This means their job security is precarious too, and though they may then have health care, lack of fair pay is still an issue. What many are not aware of, especially when living in union states, is that where we have no collective bargaining, like in Texas or other marginalized states, we are basically cut off at the knees. Although I may try to speak out, to organize, I cannot. I am, as is anyone who tries, completely silenced. In 2012, I lost my job because they labeled me a rabble-rouser. I had started my petition, Better Pay for Adjuncts, which I hope you will sign and share. Fabian had said that he would put it up. Can you put it up, the petition? Hello?
Yes. No, we
Can you
can't.
put up the petition?
No, we can't right now. Okay.
Oh, you can't? Okay. I also have a page for Adjunct Justice. I hope you go and like it, and hopefully you will see the page and the petition especially. These have flourished in spite of my location. I would like to believe my persistence has something to do with it. Though I did this completely on my own time, in my own media space where I took every precaution to keep my professional life away from my activism, the college nonetheless felt threatened. They got rid of me. The Texas Attorney General, who by the way is now running for governor, God save Texas education, gave me no satisfactory response. In California, if confronted with such a situation, I could have gone to my union. I did not have that luxury in Texas, which, like so many other states, has so-called right-to-work legislation. Not even lawyers would take my case unless I paid them up front, and we all know how little money adjuncts have lying around. I had nowhere to go. Adjunct faculty like those in Texas are more common than many realize. Cases abound in all marginalized states where adjuncts languish without a voice. Louisiana and New Mexico are two other high offenders. But in California, too, you have the ostracized regions of the less prosperous, poorly funded, underserved, underpaying districts. You teach the more isolated rural districts that have trouble staying open. You work at the inner city community colleges that are also more likely to be serving our college-ready but most vulnerable students. So in this, we all share common ground. Yet, adjunct voices are rare coming from states like ours because we are afraid. We have no one to stand with us. For instance, I only knew 2 other adjuncts at my school since we were kept apart purposely, as if higher-ups were afraid of our collaboration. When I asked these 2 to sign my petition, one said he would, but was afraid. The other seemed to have been brainwashed into submission. The first had been selling plasma to pay his bills during the summer. We think this is a myth, but it is not. He was skinny as a rail, the picture of that lone Texas cowboy, scraggly, long, and thin. The second, although she was adamant that petitions and activism were a waste of time, had been kicked out of her apartment and was desperately looking for a cheap place to live the first few days of school that semester. That was last year. I don't know if she's still there. Thus, in Texas and other marginalized states, we have no union to turn to, no other contingents to talk with. No one knows anyone else. No one trusts others. These teachers would not sign my petition. They would not tell me their troubles. We are alone, invisible. In that sense, California is light years ahead. Texas, like many other states, is big on holding adjunct fairs. Where colleges hire part-time faculty for indentured wages. With a cursory search on the internet, I found 7 adjunct fairs this spring. They stretched out all over the state. In Corpus Christi by the Gulf, McAllen on the border, Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas-Fort Worth, which includes my own school in Tarrant County. Our adjunct faculty, according to the MLA, was 65%. But if we look closer, I bet that percentage is even higher. There are many private, public, online, for-profit, not-for-profit colleges and universities all playing the same adjunct hiring game. How many, however, are hiring tenured professors? Unlike California compensation, I cannot call what adjuncts earn in Texas anything but a stipend. With an ABD in comparative literature, I was making $1,800 per semester course with no health insurance. Many have told me that they are lucky if they break $2,000 a course. In Austin, because the flagship University of Texas is there, contingent pay averages better. $5,000 at UT Austin, $3,000 at Austin Community College. Though if you go to UT schools in other areas, compensation goes back down even though it is the same system. In any case, unions don't even want to come to our states to be organized. This is why we should expand our scope and form alliances, reaching out to people who are in similar situations. For example, many K-12 school districts give only yearly contracts to their teachers. We should work together not only with them, but also with students saddled with debt and with the dreamers and undocumented who have been in the shadows, just like us, but who have bravely rebelled. All these students have a passion we are lacking, and we can learn from them. Beyond education, we should partner with other labor groups facing similar precarious working conditions so that we are not so isolated. We should reach out to activist groups working in retail, food and other services, day labor, construction, and seasonal agricultural work. If we do this, we might start getting somewhere. If we all work in unison, we can achieve a lot more together. We for them and they for us. After all, we are all in this together. Are we not? Thank you.
Bree, I think that you're on next, and because you have a map to show, how did you get one up? Okay, unblock
Don't block anything.
unblock your mic. Oh, good.
I've got it. Okay, and there I am on the screen. Okay, good, because I'm going to do some screen sharing. All right, thank you, everybody. My name's Bree Bolin. I work at Columbia College Chicago, and I work also with CASH, the Coalition Against Corporate Higher Education. I'm going to start with a quote from Daniel Singer's Prelude to a Revolution, France in May 1968. When 2/3 of an institution's members are doomed to failure, it is a perfect hunting ground for political activists, and the university was beginning to be described as a school of misfits. Now, we're all aware that 2/3 is approximately one of the statistics that state how many adjuncts there are within the university. So let's look at the etymology of misfits as well. It comes from 1823, and it refers to a garment that does not fit the person for whom it was intended. In that sense, nothing about the situation in higher ed fits any of us. The outrageous tuition, like who can imagine being a whole house in debt? Doesn't fit the students. The underfunded second-class citizen status doesn't fit contingent faculty. 2/3 of us, remember, we don't make a living wage, and we don't have health benefits, and the administrators' compensations, they don't fit either. Too often, they're way too large, and their overfed bodies are unfortunately bursting their seams. So let me turn to the screen share, and hopefully this will work. Okay, here we go. I want to show you a slogan from May of '68 here. Translated, it says, I participate, you participate, he participates, we participate, we all participate, they profit. So, those of us who are doomed to failure, as stated in Daniel Singer's text, students, faculty, and staff alike, are finding each other and fighting back, just as everyone has said. We're developing networks, we're finding our allies. And I want you to take a look at this project that we've been working with through CASH, a map of campus resistance in 2014. Already you can see we've got 70 markers on the map, which are places where there have been uprisings by students, staff, and or faculty. Just briefly, the markers that are in red with the fire indicate direct actions that have not met their goals. The markers with red with the check mark, direct actions that have met their goals. Yellow markers with the fire, places that are attempting to unionize. Orange markers with the check mark, places that have unionized or are finally at the stage of going to the NLRB. And the purple markers with the rockets are alternative universities that are cropping up as well. So there are so many of these that I haven't been able to keep up with them, and now I'm trying to outsource them to other adjuncts. I'm going to go back here for a moment to the keynote presentation, and I want to show you that you noticed, I'm sure, a very empty space in the middle of the map. We've found that this correlates directly with the right to work for less states, as stated here. At-will states have a much more successful uprisings, as Anna has stated, again, how difficult it is to organize in Texas.
Excuse me,
So
Bree?
people are indeed bound and gagged, and it's no surprise that adjuncts are fearful of speaking out. If you take a look to, if you take a look once again to the campus resistance map, we can see one particular instance of administrative retaliation happened at Bergen Community College. They voted no confidence in their president on the week of April 14th. Now, following that, sometimes administrations will do almost anything they can to retaliate against a particular adjunct, as in this case against Associate Professor Francis Schmidt. He posted a picture of his daughter wearing the shirt in a Google Plus picture.
Bree, we can't see the map.
I will take what is mine with fire and blood. Now, the university unfortunately looked at this as a threat and determined that he was not allowed to return to work until he got a psychiatric clearance. One option for folks in right to work for less states. Can you see the map, first of all?
No.
No, we can't see it. Bring it back up.
Excuse me, I can't hear you guys. Hello? I cannot hear.
Can't see the map.
Can't see the map. Here is not working.
No, the map isn't working. We just see you.
There.
Green block.
Let's try this. Okay, so now you can see my desktop, so you should be able to see the map now, correct?
No.
There we go.
Yes. We see the map.
I'm sorry, I can't hear any. I can't hear anyone.
Yes, yes, we are able to see the map.
Was it working then?
Yes, it was before.
Okay, I'm going to actually go past Bergen because I will show you the T-shirt really quickly, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, and it's still there, correct? Yes. Okay. So, okay, here is the T-shirt that they saw and took it as a threat. Okay. So the translation, of course, is that nearly anything can be used against an adjunct for retaliation, which explains most of our fear to speak out. Many of us, however, have found allies, discovered we're not alone, and are now finding options to speak out together. For instance, there is a a new initiative. Actually, it started about a year ago, I guess, in Florida, called the Adjunct Faculty Union, which is the first union dedicated to organizing adjunct professors nationwide. It is non-affiliated, and it focuses on organizing adjuncts in the southern states, info and data collection, as well as networking and organizing with other adjuncts. So online networking is also prime. As Joe had mentioned, we are working on a website right now that will serve as a national hub for adjunct networking, and it will allow you to be anonymous if you choose, and it will allow you to be out and proud if you have become one of the adjuncts who feels that you have nothing much to lose at this point and are ready and willing to speak out. Okay, so let's continue taking a look at the map. In the out-will states, unionization campaigns such as SEIU's Adjunct Action are erupting across the nations. For instance, as San Francisco Art Institute recently voted to unionize with SEIU. However, their desires were blocked by their administration. This has created a backlash, including an open letter to a union-busting president, as you can see here from Dr. L. Weatherup. This is just one way that adjuncts can choose to fight back. Oftentimes we will see leaked documents from administrations who are acting in outside of the interests of the majority of the faculty. We are also seeing adjuncts finally speaking out about this in public. So also at Loyola Marymount, LM Unionize is attempting to develop a union as there, and they've petitioned the NLRB. However, the college is still against their unionization, and they are very active there. They have researched and published their findings on adjunct working conditions, which is also linked here and is available and non-public for anyone to read. The resources exist, and more happen every day, so it's very hopeful for adjuncts. I'm going to go on to my own institution now, Columbia College Chicago. The president of our Parttime Faculty Union, Diana Valera, was recently given the AAUP's One Faculty Award. And this signifies the AAUP's newfound dedication to eradicating the two-tier system that is so harmful to adjuncts, and they've allowed themselves to begin standing up for adjunct rights across the nation. This award was spurred by a case against academic freedom in which the school had retaliated against Professor Ayman Shahadi for sharing Palestinian narratives within his Israeli-Palestinian conflict course. They launched a successful campaign that included a petition, a panel discussion, and an AAUP ruling and letter to the college and the provost that states indeed that the college had violated his academic freedom. A letter of support from the director of Five Broken Cameras, a documentary that he showed in class, was also part of the fight back. So I want to suggest again that the two-tier system is extremely problematic. What is the role of faculty within a university? Any definition that you can potentially think of should not disclude adjuncts. Therefore, we encourage all tenure-track faculty to fight alongside of us for the rights of all faculty, to not look at us as any different than you, and to recognize that we are as capable and should be valued as such, like the tenure-track faculty. We see the assault coming on tenure as well, in many forms, from outright firing, as in the University of Southern Maine, who were going to fire 12 tenured faculty, but reversed their decision only following a direct action, which was a student, staff, and faculty sit-in. We also see tenure being whittled away by because colleges are hiring more adjuncts and lecturers. Okay. So my conclusion is this. A colleague and friend I met online who teaches at multiple institutions, Mary Grace Gaynor, recently wrote a portion, as I learned Keynote, recently wrote Adjunct Verses, in which she, she repurposed a very famous poem. Let me pull this up here. Okay. First, a bad man, which is kind of our colloquialism for administrations who make bad decisions, came in for the retired tenure-track lines, and I did not speak out because I had a tenure-track job. Then they came for the liberal studies jobs, and I did not speak out because I did not teach much liberal studies anyway. Then they came for the adjuncts jobs, and I did not speak out because I was not an adjunct. Then they came for my tenure-track job, and there was no one left to speak for me. She mentions that we are too often are we complacent until the crisis knocks at our door. I hope that you will find this to be worthy of thought. There we go. And consider these propositions. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bree. I wonder if I have a question for the map. There were yellow, red, and green map signs. What do they represent? The different colors. Okay, do we want to have any questions from the audience to any of these individuals about their maps or their little?
About the map colors, and
You were interested in
especially the purple ones.
Okay.
Hi, if there was a question, I'm not sure that anyone heard it.
Hi, Bree. We did have a question about the map. What did the colors represent?
Could you possibly, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you possibly type? Having trouble hearing you.
Bree, can you hear me now? Any other questions? We can actually log them on this way. Joe, do you want me to type it on? Comment. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments. One, I'd like to comment on the obvious thing, that when this panel started, all of the important people in the room, quote unquote, the administrators, the union president, all left. And mostly,
there was one here.
mostly, excuse me, I'm sorry, but mostly. And that this is the kind of disrespect that contingent faculty receive all the time. One of the most famous contingent faculty leaders in the United States, who led contingent faculty for many years in the CFA and the California State University system, made the comment that none of us are ever more than 15 seconds away from total humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a demonstration of that, that I think needs to be said out loud, and that the people who couldn't see the room, who are online, if there are people online, need to be aware of that. That we ourselves, in fact, are doing this. We are doing the organizing. The last panel demonstrated that from the grassroots up, mostly without large-scale support from major organizations. And despite the way the comments are often phrased from people outside of our ranks, we are not the problem. The conditions we face are the problem, right? The conditions under which we are trying to do our work is a problem. But we, as contingent faculty, are not the problem. We, in fact, are the solution. We are the majority of the faculty. And the solution resides in us collectively. Only us, pretty much. Because we are the vast majority and the growing majority, and that's going to continue until we abolish contingency. And I would just like to comment, too, that two examples of that, and for those people in this room that are left, two initiatives that demonstrate that. One is the existence of a national membership organization started 3 years ago called the New Faculty Majority, and which I would urge people to get involved in. And the second is a gathering that takes place every 2 years internationally now, Canada, Mexico, United States, called the Coalition of Contingent Academic Labor. It's been going on since the mid-90s, every other year. And we'll be having a major conference in August, 4th to 6th in New York, which is the only gathering in the United States or all over North America where contingent faculty, the contingent faculty majority, are the center of the discussion, not the adjunct of somebody else's meeting who runs it. And I would encourage people to try and get organizations they're involved in, to sponsor them to go, and to borrow money if you have to. And there is some scholarship money information available at cocalinternational.org. And maybe you could pass these. Could you just hand them around? Pass them back to them, maybe. Thank you very much for listening. And there are expressions, other expressions of this movement, including a new book that just came out about us, by us, by Keith Holler, the editor, contingent faculty activist in Washington. My own book that came out a few years ago called Reclaiming the Ivory Tower. There are some expressions of this, but they don't get into the mainstream media very much. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to make any, I'd be real interested in listening to anybody long distance or in the room comments on my provocative interruption.
Can I jump in?
Joe.
Yeah. We can't really see the audience, so how many are left, out of curiosity? About 10? Okay, so Joe Barry, a lot of people left before this?
Mostly.
Well, I think it's good to call them out on it. Okay. Very good, thank you. Hi, everybody, thank you. And there's Joe, right? Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Well, then we need to make sure, as you said, we have to keep relying on ourselves first and foremost. Show we have our own community, we can reach out, and we need to keep doing that. But we also need to make sure we keep our core strong. Dedicated activists, whether adjunct, whether tenured, whether tenure track, and so forth. What I would most like to see is ways that activists could very meaningfully reach out to parents and students and let them know where their tuition dollars are going, and let them know how this extreme contingency of higher ed is affecting student learning. I agree with Joe Barry 100%. We are not the problem. We're the solution. Thank you.
Okay. I can address the question about the colors on the map. Let me pull the screen share up again quickly. So essentially, the markers that you will see that are red with flames on it are places where direct actions have been into place against particular legislations that people are not happy with, either students, staff, or faculty. This one, for instance, is Students Against Peabody Energy, who began a sit-in that I'm not sure how long it lasted, but it was still going on day 10, I know. And So that's one. And if they have a flame on them, their demands have not been met. If they have a check mark, that was the wrong one. This one up here is the University of Southern Maine, where the direct actions did have a positive consequence. The yellow with the flame means that unionizations are attempting to be held right there. The orange ones with the check mark means that unionizations have indeed occurred for adjuncts. These here are bits of legislation that have passed, such as the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act that was just denied in Denver. And the purple ones, last of all, are innovative universities that are beginning, such as GCAS, which is a very close-knit online university that charges about $99 per course, and you may get to hear from Zizek during this course, or Badu. They work in coordination with the European Graduate School, and they host their courses during Google Hangout, and they base their work on inquiry. So everyone is participating. It's the anti-MOOC in essence, because the instructors and the students are all there in close participation, and that's it.
Thank you.
So, but we actually say that we already know each other. People do a class, it's very powerful and very connected to me. Are not actually adjunct or part-time or even. So I encourage you to be connected to that way. People might know under the lead, but I can help them and we are leading hundreds of thousands.
Fabian, is it on? They said they can't hear. They cannot hear, no.
Oh, well, you can turn off the internet. We'll fight that. Okay? So thank you very much.
On that note, that the net neutrality legislation is quickly coming to bear in Congress, and I haven't heard it discussed in this conference today, but it's something that's happening now and not in a month. So I would highly recommend that we all, in this big region that you're discussing with us, Dr. Banga, that we actually take some action to keep the internet on for all of us.
Bye.
Thank you.